So welcome everybody. This is Albert Kaufman, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about the new editor for Constant Contact, and we're going to dive right in. So once you've gone into your home screen, you'll want to click on the word create and then send an email. And if your Constant Contact account doesn't look like what I just went through, you've probably got a previous version of Constant Contact, and you can call customer support or you can write to them at support@constantcontact.com and ask for your account to be upgraded. When you come into this section about where you're going to pick a template, you can choose any of these templates, but to get into the new editor, you'll want to click on View New Template, and that's over here in the right corner. And some of you, if you have the new version and the new editor only, you won't even see this information here. You'll just see templates down below. So every one of the templates for the new editor are they are mobile friendly, and for the old editor, that is signified by this image right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on View New Template, and then you'll see a couple of choices right there. I can import custom code, I can import a PDF to an email, and then I can also go backwards to view the legacy templates. This is a very interesting aspect right here, importing PDF to email. I can import a PDF. Let's say you've done your newsletter in Publisher or Word, and you've got a PDF of it. You can import that and make it become your newsletter. The problem with this is that it becomes one image within the newsletter, and that is not recommended in terms of doing a newsletter in general. So I would recommend checking that out and trying it out, especially if you have like a long piece that you want to share as a PDF. But I wouldn't use that as your email just all on its own, because if someone has images turned off on their phone, let's say, or if they're looking at your email on their phone and it's a PDF or it's a giant image, there's a likelihood that they won't see what you're wanting to share. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the basic newsletter, and I'm going to select that newsletter. Now, the first thing that I do once I have got a newsletter pulled up is I always give it a title. Personally, I tend to just title things by the date. So today's the 15th, and that's it. I'm just going to call it by the date. You can title it however you like. And now, if you're used to the older editor, you'll notice that this whole screen looks a whole lot different than the previous versions. So the first thing that you want to do is just take a look around. You'll notice over here there are some buttons that we're going to learn about. Down below there are some different layouts that we're going to talk about in a moment. And then you have these different tabs, images and colors. So I'm going to start by going up into the header block, and just like the old editor, the header block is special and it has special properties. By the way, since I'm here, I just want to point out also a couple of things about Constant Contact that you may or may not be familiar with. This whole header bar up across the top, each of those are different areas that you may want to look into. In fact, I think at the end of the webinar, I'll do a little bit of a tour of some of the areas that you may not be familiar with that I think are highly recommended that you check out. This is the support number right here, and they're actual live humans who answer the phone and who can answer your questions. If you have any questions, simple, complex, they are there for you. That is what your money pays for in large part. So do consider using that phone number. Also, this little section right here, if you click on that, will tell you what's new with Constant Contact and new information. I want to then move into the header area. So here's my from name, and then here's my email that I'm sending from, and then I can choose whether or not to have this email come back to me or to go to someone else via this checkbox. And then here's the subject line. The subject line is a key indicator of whether a person is going to open your email or not. So I highly recommend spending some serious time on the subject line. One of my favorite tools that I like to recommend is something called the headline analyzer. And here it is right here. And you can put your headline into this headline analyzer and have it tell you whether or not it thinks you're doing a good job, and you can tweak your email accordingly. So here I've got my subject line, let's say latest news for you. Read on. So the next thing that I want to share with you is this little section. In the previous editor, there was a line for pre-header text. In this editor, currently, there is none. I have a feeling that's going to change, but for now, this is a bit of information that shows up in the email or in your email client as a bit of further information that you can also do something like hide within this email. So for instance, if you want this to show on the top of your email, that's great. This is just the first bit of information that'll follow the subject line in your recipient's inbox in their email client. But a lot of people will take this and hide it. And so I'm just going to imagine it's this color. And so that way, when a person sees your email, they get that bit of information in their email client, but they don't actually see it in your email that you're sending. So that's called pre-header text. And I'll show you some examples of that real quick, how that would look, for instance, in Gmail. So for instance, let's see, we've got, here's an example, Sightline Institute. Sightline Daily, willing to pay more, and then here's their teaser text, plus purpose at Standing Rock, rarest, blah, blah, blah. And you can see that this is their teaser text. It may or may not show up when I open the email. So it's something to work with and play with. Whatever you put here, it's going to, by the way, there's the undo button. That's a great thing to know about. You can undo and redo things even after you've edited something in a block. And that's a new feature in the new editor. So that's wonderful. In the previous editor, once you saved a block, you were not able to go backwards and forwards in terms of the work that you just done. So whatever you put in here, or whatever next information you have, so for instance, this, let's say I didn't have this block here, this information would be the next bit of information that would show up in the person's email client. And in this case, it's an image. It will just copy the information of what the image is called. And you may or may not want that bit of information to be shared. In fact, generally, you don't want that bit of information to be shared because it probably is just Albert Ideation logo. And so, you know, your great subject line, the latest news for you, read on, is followed by Albert Ideation logo medium.png or whatever it is. So make sure that you do use your pre-header text wisely, or do think about what's the first bit of information that's going to be up here. Okay, next up, I wanted to show you another feature that has popped up in the new editor, and that is the ability to take an image and shrink it or grow it just right there within the image space. Now, once I've highlighted or clicked on the image itself, I can also make this a clickable link to my website. I can test that if I'd like to. Here's the alt text, and that's the part that will show up as the information that I just mentioned. So maybe instead of Albert Ideation Medium, I might put Albert Ideation logo. That's fine. And then I can click on Done. Another nice feature is I can take this image and I can move it around just by grabbing it. Let's say I want it down here. I can copy it right here. I can also delete it if I want to. And there's lots of other things I can do as well. If I double click on it, it will open up the image editor. And the image editor is a little bit different from the previous image editor. It doesn't have the same exact information. It still does have the image editor down here on the left. So I can click on this and open up an editor and do fun things, put stickers on something, or just, there's a lot of different editing that I can do for the image. One of my new favorite ones that I've found is this meme information. So, this allows me to meme it up. And if I click on apply and I click on save, then that image suddenly has new information on it, and I can make that bigger, and you can see that it's added the meme to the email. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about some of what you can do with these different blocks. The moving around part, I think, is really one of the best new features, because you can take something and just move it, and you can sort of resize it as well, and then move it into a smaller space. So you can take it and just move it like right into the middle of an email, or really wherever you want. It's very fancy in that way. Here's another feature that just popped up while I was scrolling around that I want to share with you. It's the ability to take one of these lines and change the size of it. So here's like a nice bold line. I can change the color of that line. And that's a nice thing for consistency throughout the email. So here, let's say I want another one of these lines. I'll move it right within here. Let's see, I meant to, okay. So that's just a nice new feature that you're able to take these lines and adjust them. And I can also make this a dashed line. Obviously, that's not exactly what I'm looking for, but here I am making a dashed line into something fancy. I can also move things up or down and really work on spacing in a nice way. So that's a new feature that's really pretty nice. Okay, anybody have any questions so far? I know I've been kind of cruising along here, and you all have been very patient. Thank you. But if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just continue on. So some other features here are the ability to take an image and drag it into your block somewhere, and just you can take an image and move it really anywhere you want. And that piece of purple will tell you where your image has landed. So there's where my image has landed. And then if I double click on here, I can insert an image from my image editor that I shared before. You can also go into images and just take an image and move it into place. And that's just a new, wonderful, fantastic feature. So I just really love that. And then, I can take this, I can move things back and forth. I can take that image and make it, bigger or smaller so that it fits in with something above it or below it. And there's just a lot of really nice drag and drop WYSIWYG, which means what you see is what you get kind of imagery. So ability to, spread things how you like them. And again, if I want to undo what I've just done, I can do that. So here are my images. A little bit has changed here. I can change by, how I want to sort them. I can look at them through the different folders that I have them in. So here are some constant contact related images. So instead of this one, perhaps I want a different image to be put in there, and I can just replace that really easily and make that smaller. Okay, so back to the build area. So we've talked about images. I can also take these various buttons and move them into place. So here's a button, for instance. Let's say I want to add a button here. So here's the button. It says visit our website. I might change that to say register. for my webinar. By the way, I have another webinar coming up in October, and I'll tell you all about that in an email follow-up to you. And I've also got a boot camp where I spend half a day with folks on Constant Contact coming up. I believe it's on October 4th. It's $79, and I'll also send you a link to that. Then you basically spend the whole day with me hands-on, not the whole day, 3 hours, downtown Portland. And it's in a really lovely facility. So if you're at all interested in spending a bunch of time working on this editor together with me, please do consider that. But for today, this is the nuts and bolts of what this editor can do. Let's say I want to change that to red type, and I want to change the background to gray. Now I've got a button that goes to a website, and let's say I want to change the font. Can do that as well, and then I can say done, and that button will now take a person to the website that I have just created. And again, I can copy that whole block and delete the whole block, however you like. So dividers, those are these things that we just edited a moment ago. I just really love this feature. This is just a great new feature because it allows you to do some really nice branding throughout your template. So I'm making something that's not that beautiful, but hopefully you are getting the idea. I'm just going to bump this text up to 18. And spacer, it's pretty obvious. Social. So I'll put the social links in right here. Right now, the social links are basically all of your different social media sites. If you click on this, you get a chance to edit which sites you want to put into your little horizontal list. So let's say I don't want my Google Plus site and I don't want my YouTube site, but I want these other ones. So I can have them all show up like this. And then if I want to add back in Google and YouTube, I can go ahead and click on Add Network. And if I click on Insert, there are my social media buttons. And a way that I might introduce them to somebody is by putting in some text and saying, let's stay connected via social media, or here's what's happening in my social world. And perhaps I could take this and center it, and maybe I'd make it bigger and something like that. And that way, a person would see, okay, well, here are my social links, and this might be a way to encourage people to come out to your social media links. Another new feature that just happened just recently is this Read More feature, and this allows me to add in links to my blog, let's say. So if I click on Edit, and if I click on my website, I believe, let's see, so I think I need an actual URL, so I'm going to put this URL from my upcoming classes into the email, into this space. It'll pull out, this is an image that's from that page. Here is the title of that page. I can actually change it on the fly. I can change this bit of text as well, and I can also have this little read more button. And if I click on insert, it's basically just grabbed the information from my website and pasted it in there. And there was an RSS feeder type of integration with the previous editor, and so that is there. You can click on the read more button and have blog content show up in your newsletter if you're using the second generation editor, but it's not nearly as fancy as this. This is much more like what happens when you post a link on social media. So it's been kind of interesting how Constant Contact has been working with Facebook, and they have an interesting relationship, and they're obviously sharing some code. So that's fantastic for us. And speaking of Constant Contact, let's take a little break here for a moment and remind you, if you are thinking about getting Constant Contact, if you don't have it already, there is a special offer today for $5 for 3 months, for $5 a month. So there's a little link to this here, and then there's also a file in the handouts that gets you this link as well for your reference later. All right, back to the editor. The next little piece that's new, which is really exciting, is this poll. And let's see if I can get this in here somewhere. And this poll, where has it landed? Let's see, let me get out of a couple of these things. So if I click on poll, it looks like it just landed at the end of things. Let's try that one more time. So is the content of this email relevant to you? And I believe I can just click on this and edit it, and then I can decide, what information I'm interested in collecting. And when a person clicks on that select button, that is going to allow them to actually choose. So that's a wonderful new feature. It's just a quick survey within your email. I haven't actually used it yet, but I definitely will be. It's a good reminder that it's there. So after these different areas, we talked about images a moment ago. You can also upload images. You can also choose from stock images. We didn't talk about colors yet, but your colors are, decided here. Is this brown or black? I can choose instead to change that to green, and even just rolling over the color, I can start to see what color it's choosing and choose that color. So that's a really nice feature as well. Inner background right now is white. If I changed it to blue, I probably wouldn't do that, but here's how that would look. So you can just see right as you're working what your change will look like. And I'll change that back to white, so hopefully you can see this better. And let's say I wanted to hide this. I would go ahead and change that to the green, and then that would be hidden for anybody that came into the email. They wouldn't see that bit of information. All right, so back to the layouts. Down here on the left, these are all pre-created for you. So if you were interested, I'm actually just going to get rid of a couple of things so I have some space to work. And so let's say I wanted 4 pictures across. I could put those up here, and here are 4 pictures. I'll go ahead and throw some pictures in there. There's my friend Brighton. Here's another picture. Here's an agenda, and here's this. So now if I go and I take a look, okay. All right, it's not really wanting me to do exactly what I'm trying to do, but I will get there. Great. Okay, so now if I want to take a look and see how my work looks, I can come in here and click on Preview, and this is a new feature as well. This allows me to see how my work is going to look on a desktop. I can also click and send myself a test email, which you always want to do. You always want to send yourself a test email, possibly more than just yourself, perhaps to someone else as well. And this will also allow me to show this on a mobile device. And you can see now this is stacked up really nicely, and you can be pretty much guaranteed that this will show up really well on a mobile device. And that's a nice little test. Again, back to these different layouts. I can also just put in, just a text layout. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a title. Here, I think is just text. No, that's a title, but with an empty background. There's a coupon that I can put in there. There's left justified images with right justified text. There's left justified text with a right side image. Something I didn't show before, but that I want to, is sort of going backwards here, but I didn't show this yet. But I can also put in, let's say I want to say, Dear Albert. So instead of Dear Albert, I'm going to put in, I'm going to insert a greeting tag, and that allows me to put in my, hello, first name, comma, and then a secondary greeting will show up if you don't have that information in that first spot. So there you go. Hello, first name, and let's bump it up like that. And another new feature that's in here as well is, let's say you want to talk about somebody's business. So, it's great to do business with you. And then in here, I can put contact details. So I could put a business name. I can put a zip code. I can put a person's last name. And the fallback option is Mr. So, here it says, it's great to do business with you, Kaufman. That's how that would show up. In fact, if I click on preview, you can see how this will show up if I was sending this to myself. Hello, Albert. It's great to do business with you, Kaufman. So that's a great new feature. Really, really fantastic. So that was not in there in the previous editor. So I've showed you a bit about the layouts, and I've showed you about the build, images, and colors. I believe that is it for the new editor. Let me think if there's anything I've forgotten. I'm really very open to questions. If you've got any questions, this would be a great time to ask one. And if not, that's been a good half hour of demoing the new editor. It's really pretty snazzy. One thing you should know is that you can't edit a email that you've created in the new editor in the old editor and vice versa. I believe you can go in and pull up the old, in the old editor, you can copy the HTML and probably use it in the new editor, but for right now, you can't kind of switch back and forth in that way that you might like to. Okay, so someone has asked a question. So Madeline has asked, how do I save a custom template for future use? So I would just say, let's say you love what you've made here, you would just call this my template. And then you're done with working with this. Let's say you save it, and then you could come back out here into campaigns. Yeah, feel free to load up on questions if you have any right now. It could be about this editor, it can be about the old editor, whatever kind of questions you have. So here's my template, it's a draft, and then I would just say copy that template, and then give that template a new name, and you're off and running. So then I would click on save, and now I'm up and running and I'm using the template that I've just created. I hope that answers your question. Linda says, I had difficulty joining the webinar and was only able to join when you had finished. Yes, I will send you a copy that you can watch. I believe that is going to be possible. And for those who got here late, just so you know, there is a offer today for 3 months of email marketing for $5 a month from Constant Contact, and there's the link to sign up for that if you are so interested. And I will also help you get your account up and running. And for anybody who's interested in working together, please do get in touch and we can figure out how to work together. I love doing this kind of work. It's really very exciting to me. So Linda asked, can I rename a campaign that I had previously named incorrectly for future reference? No, once a campaign is sent, I do believe that that is where you're at. So if I go into campaigns, and let's say I have this campaign right here. Here was something I sent out on the 11th. Oh no, it does look like I can now update that and change the name of that. So yes, you can. There you go. And I'm not sure if that is true with, this was made with the new editor. I'm going to check and see if something in the old editor has that same capability. So let's see. Yeah, so in campaigns that have the old editor, you cannot do that. So it's just for campaigns that are using the new editor that is possible. So besides the editor that we talked about today, there's really no new big changes to Constant Contact that I know about that I can share with you. So, but I do have another question. Can you copy a block from a previously sent email to a new email without copying the whole email? That's from Melissa. I do believe that is possible, and that would be if you go into create. Well, first of all, in the previous editor, you would go into a block, go into the HTML area, and then copy that HTML. And then in the new editor, you would click on create. My computer is probably saying it's had enough for one day. Let's see, so click on send an email, and then you would click on the custom code button. And oh, it looks like, well, you know, to be honest, I've not been here before, so that's where you would upload that right in here as we're going along. So you would click on the custom code and follow through with this bit of information. And then, you know, to be honest, this does not look like, I think I'm going down a path that does not look correct to me. I believe that this is not possible in the new editor. So I'm just going to say that for now, you cannot do that. You can check with customer support, but my sense is that that is not a possibility right now. Linda says, thank you. And great. Good for Linda. And orange P icon you keep clicking on. Linda, I'll need some more information about that, but I will go in and see what you might be talking about. Well, I'm also going to say, for those who'd like to take off, it's been a great time working with you today, and I'll keep answering questions for a while, but I'm going to go ahead and shut off the recording, and I will send you a follow-up email with hopefully a recording of this session, as well as an invitation to work together and come to some of my upcoming classes. So thank you very much.